Is it better to replace it as opposed to
Well,
fixing
as
it?
far as this is the plastic ground storage tank, you know, my recommendation would be to replace it. And the other question comes into play here. The other items on my list here down at the bottom are in italics. Those are not construction-related items, but those are items like preparing maps and doing a model and doing a master plan. You know, we could simply replace that tank with what's there now. But the question is, with future growth, you know, do we need to put in a larger tank, or do we need to do something else there, which we don't know? You know, right now, without the backup and the studies and the models, all we're doing is replacing what's there to address the problem that's immediate there right now. But, you know, if there was a need to, say, put in a larger tank because of some future growth requirements in that area, you know, we could invest, you know, in a too small tank right now and put in something that maybe needs to be larger. But again, those are issues that I wanted to talk about at the end of this, to talk about the mapping and the models that need to be done to make sure we're making the right decisions when we replace these expensive tanks and pumps and things like that. The last item there was a B Street pump station, or item number 4, I guess, underwater was, you know, when we did the elevated tank, we had to change out the pumps, but we were only able to, because of cost issues, we put in 2 pumps, and we have a 3rd slot for the larger 3rd pump. But that requires that the pump to be purchased, and then some electrical service upgrades to be done. And that probably needs to be done, because right now the well out there can pump about 1,200 gallons a minute, but the service pumps that are pushing the water up in the elevated tank are probably only pumping about 750 gallons a minute. And so that 3rd pump will allow you to pass that water that's coming out of the well all into your system. Right now there's a little bit of difference there, which is good. It's good to have more well water coming in than well water going out. But you have some additional supply you can get in the system there if you need it in the future.
And that's on
B Street.
B Street.
Yeah. The the next item there was the Hospital Boulevard elevated tank rehab and painting. That's a much more expensive project. I think in the past the city has gotten had an inspection done, and I think I recall seeing some quotes of like $400,000 plus to repair and fix that tank. And that tank was built in like the early '60s, so it's over 50 years old. And I know that the city has had some problems with it leaking, some pinhole leaks, which means there's probably a lot of that occurring up there. It's going to be occurring up there, so that the water tank itself is probably at its life. And so that's probably why the cost was so high, was to go back in there and either put in a liner or some other feature that will allow that tank to continue to operate properly. So that one there, I would say we need to do maybe a little further evaluation of that tank just to make sure, which direction we go there. Do we want to fix it, or do we want to replace it, or do something in between? Like just replacing even the tank itself. I think we've spoken to contractors. They can actually have a large crane come in, cut the top of the tank off, put it in another tank and sit it back on top of the pedestal. They can do all kinds of things nowadays. So we need to just look a little closer at that and decide what we're going to do. The ground storage tank there at the Hospital Boulevard is also, needs to be repainted, some repair work done to it. So those are kind of immediate items that I see. There's a lot of others. There are other areas in the city that probably need attention also, but those were kind of 6 of the ones that kind of came up forefront and need to be addressed pretty quickly. Items 7 through 11 kind of relate to more of the administrative engineering aspects of the system. Getting your sewer maps, or getting your water maps done, doing a water system master plan, which would involve doing water models to verify exactly what's happening in your system so that we can make good decisions on what needs to be repaired or upgraded. And then the last part of that, this relates to both water and wastewater. I talked about water impact fees or wastewater impact fees. Right now, there's no way to charge customers who want a connection to your system, whether it's for a subdivision project that has lots of demand for water or wastewater. You have no way of charging them for the cost of having to build that $2 million proposed project coming out of phase 2. If you went through this impact fee process, you could actually develop a fee that you could then charge developers or customers who want water service in the city or sewer service in the city the cost of upgrading that wastewater plant to add capacity to it to cover their requirements. And that's just a way that the city of San Antonio or Falls does that. Most cities and companies who provide water and wastewater service have impact fee structures in place now, where they charge customers not only for the town, but they also charge an impact fee, which you can then put into the bank and save until you have enough money and all the other funds you might get from other sources to build that project and not have to be faced with coming up to $2.5 million or $2.2 million to fund that work yourself. One of the items on water and wastewater also is the CCNs. You have a CCN boundary, it's DSEC, but it doesn't follow your current CCN. And there's a gap between the outlying water supply corporations around Floresville and Floresville. And I'd suggest that y'all need to modify your CCN to at least go up and abut those existing boundaries, because there's gaps in there. And that probably hasn't been updated in probably 40 years or 30 years.
Mr. Heimer, for the new council member, CCN stands for?
It's Certificate of Convenience and Necessity. I believe it's not how it is. I think I said, is that right? You're in the water, you were in the water business at one time, right?
CCN is Certificate of Convenience and Necessity,
Right.
required by the 1975 Public Utility Regulatory Act.
Right. Well, that's required for water, and y'all have one, but it's doesn't cover your city limits in some areas, so that needs to be adjusted. And on the wastewater side, there's not one at all. And so it would be good to try to establish that.
But nobody wants to be in a wastewater business, Mr. Heimer.
Well, but probably though in the future that'll become the biggest profit center.
Yeah.
Because water, even though it's wastewater, it'll become very, very valuable.
Yeah.
So I would say, I would certainly recommend y'all go forward with that. On the wastewater side, I think the SSO plan, y'all have participating in what's called a SSO plan for TSEC. It was an opportunity y'all took several years ago and was getting fined because of an overflow that occurred. And that process involves going through and doing visual inspection, TV testing, whatever of your system to verify its condition, and then make it repairs, point repairs of your system. So that needs to be continued on, and there's it's like a 5-year time schedule to do all that work, I believe, for the first phase of that. So I don't know what the current status of that is, but we need to probably meet on it sometime and see where you're on that. Another thing is, item 2 is a kind of a backup pump that can be used by your staff to address when there's a power outage or if the pump goes down to a lift station. This type of pump can be pulled to that location and can handle the flow while that issue is occurring. Another option that we talked about a lot in the past is getting an emergency generator to put in at each location or have a truck in each location, but that works fine if it's just a power outage. But if there is a pump outage or something fails in the pump itself, well then that doesn't help you having a generator, whereas this would allow your staff to take that to your lift station where there's a problem and be able to allow that pump to handle the flows while all that repair is being made. And that pump is also can be used for other purposes. I think Joe at the plant needs a pump to be able to drain his chlorine contact chambers, and that would be a pump that could do that for him. And then the lift stations, your existing lift stations need lots of work. They're way undersized, and they're doing okay. They're working fine, but just from the standpoint of upgrading them to meet current standards, there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done there. So those would probably involve increasing the wet wells from a 4 or 5 foot down there wet well to a 8 or 10 foot down there wet well, create more storage and that sort of thing. Then the city, Joe is needing something to help with sludge. He's talked about getting another smart box installed at the plant, and that's kind of a temporary solution that would be probably addressed whenever we do the next phase improvements for the plant. Phase 2 is probably the phase 2 improvements will probably involve a different type of sludge process where we either have a sludge belt press or something else that would do away with the need for the smart boxes. And then there's just, again, those same, the words in italics there, the items 6 through 10 are just the same type of thing I spoke about in water, getting the mapping prepared that describes what you have, doing models, and really trying to create a master plan that addresses how you serve those unsewered areas in the city. I know y'all want to provide service or have all new development in the city, you get tied into your sewer system, but without having a master plan, you know, what typically has been happening with the city, you stick a lift station in to take care of that need. And a lift station just creates a perpetual maintenance problem for the city. They work great, but it's just one other point that's got to be maintained and looked after on a pretty routine basis. Whereas if you had a master plan, you could maybe make decisions like putting in a gravity main and funding that so that, like for instance, an example of that might be at the subdivision out here at River Bend. You know, there's a lift station that's there because the river's right there, but if we had a master plan at that time, we could have put that lift station in and sized it so it could handle not only River Bend, but also the Walmart and other areas upstream. And then the Walmart this time would have just put in maybe a gravity main connection down to one business list, rather than putting in another lift station. So those are things that these last items on my list would help us predict and be able to create a plan that can be used as the city grows, and so you don't just do things kind of piecemeal to address a problem or immediate need. But we're looking at the overall picture from the standpoint of future growth and future needs. So I hope that was too long, but I tried to address everything.
Well, no, I think the motion we should make, council, is that we listen to the projects that are being recommended or suggested by our city attorney. Is that would that be correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir. Okay. Actually, city engineer too. Yes, sir.
Yes, I did say engineer, didn't I?
Yes, it's city attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We concur, sir.
If I may, Cindy, do you take some of these notes and go, what are the impact fees now? You have an idea if we're going to have it?
We don't have.
No, there's no impact.
What you see on this rate sheet right here?
Right.
Is what we.
Okay, all right, that's perfect.
So, Mr. Johnson, we do have one for connections for $17.50, something that had moved up at one time that we're gonna save too, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Where does that money go over?
It goes into
The general fund?
General fund, and then it goes into the general.
But it moved, I think, from $3.50 to $17.50 a couple of years ago, no?
I don't know how many years ago.
It was in
It was
06 or 07.
It's probably been about 4 years.
4 years, because I put it into, I accepted that. But, you know, if you figure all the work that's been done, and we're missing out on that impact fee from businesses. So.
Like it solves, you know, a typical
Right.
water impact fee is like $1,500
Yeah,
per
it is.
connection.
Right.
That doesn't cover the cost of the service installation,
Right.
just the impact fee. Wastewater is a little bit lower, but it's still roughly $800 per connection.
Can we look into that? Can you get together with the city manager and look into some of those fees? And
Well,
see what we can look-
Yeah, that impact process is a very well-defined process you've got to go through in order for it to be a legal fee that's dictated by some state and local government regs, I guess. And basically, it's a process where you develop a master plan, a CIP, find the projects that are going to serve these new areas, and then go through several, I guess, appoint a commission, go through 2 or 3 public hearings, look at the, cost of that service, and then after going through that process, which probably takes 4 to 5 to 6 months, then you can adopt the fees and start charging those fees.
So then we probably need to go ahead with this project here.
Just for the council's information, Cindy, Mr. Gonzalez, have you been in contact with?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, as we speak, I'm compiling all the information that Mr. Gonzalez needs to get it started with this study. So that we, the sooner we get all this information together, like Heimer says, that opportunity is there now, we need to take advantage of it. So we're working on that right now.
Yeah, even if it's just commercial.
Is there a motion, council?
Yes, I'm making a motion to approve the request. I don't know, hold on. I think the attorney had a question.
One question I wanted to ask is, if I may, does Mr. Gonzalez need some formal action from the council so he can get up and get going?
He did not reply that he needed a formal action. He just gave me a list of all the information that we need to submit to him
And
initially.
he's willing to do it in response to discussion with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd just like that to appear in our records so that if there's any question, the council certainly wants him to go proceed, I would assume. access free and available resources from USDA.
I would assume there will probably be some kind of application form you will provide to you when you get this information.
Exactly.
And ask you then to execute that document.
You want to have a motion, sir?
Yes, sir. To approve the request that the manager and the city engineer provide a rate comparison with Wilson County Water and Sewer Supply, listing the project requirements to meet CCQ 85% rural, 75% on sewage, identification of projects identified as requiring repair improvements within the fiscal year, including areas of the city for which sewer service is unavailable. Consider issues related to cost of / improved refuse service.
Motion by Gomez, is there a second? Second by Castillo, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, just to be clear for what the council's asking there, they're asking for the manager and the engineer to come back with a report that's responsive to that item. Is there a date?
Well, I think that was the report,
That was pretty much the report.
that was pretty much the report. That's the way I took it.
I would say the next step here would be, with the construction projects, we just need to determine the schedule and the funding for that, when we're going to do that. On the other items related to the mapping and master planning and the impact fee studies, probably I need to come back to you with a scope and fee if you want me to do that, or we could develop a RFQ that would describe those services, and you can put that out and see what other responses you get. But either way, you probably want to have someone provide you a scope and fee to do that work, and a schedule to do that work, because there's quite a bit of work involved here that would need to be completed for mapping and the modeling and the master planning, and then the impact fee process.
Okay. We take a vote in favor, all opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Heimer.
Thank you very much, sir.
Item G, which was related to item F, for a second reading of ordinance of the City of Floresville amending ordinance 269 dated November 12, 2009. Amend the fee schedule for water, sewer, refuse service rates in section 2. Water service rates become effective October 1, 2011, pursuant to budget adopted by City Council. Do we have a recommendation by the staff on the rates?
The council can move on increasing the rates if they want to. The study that this gentleman's going to do with Cindy and everything else can cover the impact fees, which are additional costs that we got, or the council can wait and just get the whole report at one time and make the adjustments as they see fit. I know that our finance director has been out all week, but Sherry Pollok has some numbers that I believe that Councilman Gomez wanted to see on what increases would generate revenue at different increments.
That is correct. Hannah did work on, good evening, Mayor and Council. Hannah's been working on rate adjustments and what they would look like if we adjusted rates. And in the information that we've got here, what they show are the differences in the revenues that would be generated if the increments were moved up by 50 cents. Yes, and I can give it. Sorry. The additional amounts, and these are just estimates of what it would be if we move the increments up in 50-cent increments or dollar increments. And to the side, that is with our current customers, that's our current water base that's out there, and that would be on the water, on those amounts.
Let me ask a question. On the sewage rate, they're the same, correct?
That is
They're not
correct.
even split
They're
on the
not,
commercial
they're,
side.
that is correct. It's even all the way through on the water and sewer.
But on the water side, the commercial is imposed, right? The fees are imposed, but
Yes.
they're all the same rate even then, correct?
That is correct.
So, for example, on the water rate, residential, commercial, based on 23